Indigenous people from up north recently gathered with the Albuquerque community to talk about protecting the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska from the oil and gas development there. The Trump administration is moving forward with plans to open drilling in the coastal plain of the refuge. Development in the ANWR is contentious. Supporters seek jobs, an economic boost, and a reduction of U.S. dependence on foreign oil. But for the Gwich'in people, it's a different story. They hold the land sacred and rely on its caribou herds for their way of life. Indigenous groups say they will not back down from protecting the untouched ecosystem. How does what happens in the Arctic trickle all the way down to the Southwest? This week, correspondent Antonia Gonzalez sits down with a Gwich'in leader who talks about how allies from Alaska to Albuquerque are joining forces on the issue.
Bernadette Demientieff is the executive director of the Gwich'in Steering Committee, and you're in Albuquerque as part of your work educating and advocating for the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Welcome to New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Please introduce yourself.
Shorji Bernadette Demientieff oji, Shahan Betty Flit oji, Shitty Bernard Hornsby oji, Gwich'ajak Healy. My name is Bernadette Demientieff, and I'm from Fort Yukon, Alaska. My mother is Betty Flit, and my father is Bernard Hornsby of Louisiana.
And first off, can you explain a little bit about the significance of ANWR to your people?
You know, the porcupine caribou herd and the Gwich'in people, we've had a cultural and spiritual connection since time immemorial. And for over 40,000 years, we migrated with the caribou. If you look at the migratory route and the Gwich'in communities, they're identical. And so we, you know, one of the prophecies and the stories that's been passed down is that we made a pact with them a long time ago that, you know, we were able to communicate with them, that we would always take care of each other. And they have taken care of my people for thousands of years. So providing, you know, food security, clothing, tools, and now it's our turn to return that and that favor, and we're protecting their calving grounds. 95% of the Arctic is already open to oil and gas development, and the coastal plain is the calving grounds, and so it's very sacred to us. We don't even go there. We're forbidden to step foot there, and they want to open it to oil and gas.
And the area that you're talking about, Indigenous communities, not only there, but in other areas around the world, are often first on the front lines to see changes, climate change. What are you seeing? What are the people seeing there?
Oh my goodness. You know, I know that we're saying all over the country that we're ground zero for climate change, and I do think that's true, but I think it's just true in our own way. Like up there, we're dealing with so much erosion. We have 33 coastal communities that are falling into the ocean. There's a couple of them that have to be moved. I never even knew what ticks were until last April. In Gwich'aja, in Fort Yukon, where I'm from, there was a rabbit, and I was all like, those are tumors. They were ticks. And my daughter plays at this park, and we saw another squirrel that was dealing with that. We're dealing with the rivers are not freezing, people are falling through and, you know, drowning. Even our most experienced hunters are dealing with changes that is just out of our control. So we don't only feel attacked by a government that's supposed to be honoring our human rights, we feel attacked by the changes, the climate changes, and what's happening. We are very concerned up there, and just nobody is sharing our voices. It's hard to always have to leave our home to come, but I believe that, you know, that we're stronger together. And just learning about Indigenous issues across the country, it really humbles my heart, because we are all fighting for our human rights, for our culture, our tradition, and I really do see an uprising, and it just and I'm so honored to even be a part of it.
And I've heard scientists talk about, what happens in the Arctic trickling down. So if it's warmer in Alaska, or if it's drier and warmer here in the Southwest, that it's all connected. How do you see development impacting changes that Indigenous people are seeing?
Well, the chemicals that they're using, there's a couple of communities that are already dealing that they're sick. There's a lady that was a nurse, and she actually now she's a full-time spokesperson because she just started as a nurse, and there was only one person in her community that had a respiratory. Now a third of her community has respiratory. And we're going to be seeing that. We're going to be seeing in our animals, my voice, I'm using it for the porcupine caribou herd. I'm using it for the polar bears, for the foxes. They can't tell us that we're hurting them. They can't tell us that they're starving or that they're hurting because of climate change. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just try to be there and do what I can to protect what the Creator blessed us with.
And when it comes to development, especially oil and gas, the Trump administration has not been shy about promoting it. And also even members of the administration, when it comes to climate change, saying, they deny some of the science behind it. Indigenous people here in New Mexico are fighting to protect sacred sites, including around Chaco Canyon. How do you see teaming up with Indigenous people in New Mexico and across the country? What does that do for these environmental issues that people like yourself are fighting for?
Well, we've already have been, connecting and learning about each other, because we may be thousands of miles from each other, but we're connected with the food security. We're connected with our language, and I think we're stronger together. If anything good is going to come from this administration, it's going to be unity amongst our people. We are real people. We matter. We are grandmothers and mothers, fathers. We have jobs and homes and families. And just because we don't value the non-Indigenous, society, what they hold, what they fight for. Us, we're land people. We know that we have to have a healthy environment to survive, and our children mean a lot to us. We would rather have, them have a healthy ecosystem to live off of, clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, healthy animals to hunt.
And also, how do you see sharing Indigenous knowledge and tradition with the public? How does that also just impact what you're fighting for?
That we have different common senses, like stuff that I've just grew up knowing and doing. People from a different background, and it's so different for them, and they can't connect. They don't know, and but they find it really amazing, wow. And I'm just sitting there it's not that big of a deal, but it is, because it's being threatened now. Our culture, the porcupine caribou herd is our identity as Gwich'in people. All our songs, all our stories, and all our dances are directed to them. And now that I see that that's being threatened, sharing is important, because although some people will never understand that we're fighting for our survival. We can't just go home and shut off, at 5 o'clock. It's always on our mind. We're always worried about what's going to happen. We have people coming in to our homelands, making changes and doing anything they want without even involving us. And we're not going to put up with it anymore. We're just not going to allow anybody to bully us or dismiss our concerns. and it's really amazing to share with others, because I think that we all connect whether we're grandparents of different color or we are fathers, mothers, but we all have some kind of connection, and we can all understand the issues that we are going through. And I do believe that we will unite. And I think that, as it seems like an uphill battle now, but I really believe in what I'm fighting for. And, sometimes I feel like I'm failing, but I can't give up. There's just something in me that just, giving up is not an option. And as tiring as it is, I'm here, and, we're gonna give it all I have.
I can definitely see and feel your passion for this issue, and it's definitely a controversial one, not only with drilling there, but other places that are sacred to Indigenous people. And there are supporters who say, they want the jobs, boosting the economy. How do you see that dynamic, and how do you try to talk to people who are, in support of these types of projects?
Well, I like money too, okay, but not if it's going to, hurt the future generation. The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is one of the last untouched ecosystems in the world, and it's in our country. In 100 years, is our children going to know what wilderness is? We have to leave some of this world as it was in the beginning, not just when we're done with it. It's a struggle. This is a spiritual battle as well, and we're all learning. I believe that we're all learning on these issues. We're all trying to follow the path that Creator has given to us.
And I wanted to ask you about being a woman, an Indigenous woman, and taking on this fight. We now have 2 members of Congress, Native American women. You see women have long in Indigenous communities led the way in leadership. So just talk a little bit about what it means to you to be an Indigenous woman and leading this fight, really.
It's hard. It's hard because I genuinely care. I really care about what I'm standing up for. And, there's just so much that's not shared that we deal with. There's just always people that are not happy. But I do this for our children. I do this for our future generations. My ancestors, they fought so that I could be sitting right here in this chair. They fought for my survival, and I owe that same dedication and respect to my future generations. And that's why I do this. I cannot unknow what I know. And I just, all the science, all the changes I witness, everything that I see, I can't just walk away and not do nothing. It's scary. And, we really do need to start taking this more serious. We're getting to the point of no return, and I know a lot of people just that's just too dramatic. No, it's not. If you love your children, why risk that? 16,000 scientists can't be wrong.
And so what's your hope for the future?
My hope is unity. My hope is education, learning about each other, because I think that just over time we all just grew into our own lives and cultures, and we come from amazing people. We come from survivors, and I want to learn more. I want to meet more people. I want to connect, and I want to help. I want to help my fellow Indigenous people, let the rest of the world know that we matter and that we're not going anywhere, that we're here and this is our homelands and we are not going anywhere. So get used to us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today on New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you sharing our story.